But now to this angle, the Trump administration is putting on hold billions of dollars of funding for infrastructure projects in New York City. In a social media post, White House Budget Director Russell Vought wrote that he would be pausing $18 billion in funding for infrastructure projects to ensure that money was not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles.
Bueno, señores, hoy tenemos dos escenarios muy controversiales alrededor de Donald Trump. Hay una pregunta que muchos se están haciendo y es, ¿será que Donald Trump se robó 17 trillones de dólares? No estoy exagerando, señores. Él mismo lo dijo. Recordemos que aseguró públicamente que su gobierno había recibido esa cantidad de dinero por los aranceles. Dinero de otros países. Y el otro escenario es que acaban de bloquear 18,000 millones de dólares en fondos para infraestructura en la ciudad de Nueva York. El problema, amigos, es que según todos los comités de presupuesto y finanzas en el Congreso, este dinero en ambos lados no aparece. El Departamento del Tesoro no lo tiene. Y mientras tanto, estamos en pleno cierre de gobierno. Y lógicamente provocado por Trump y sus republicanos MAGA. Seamos claros, señores. Si existieran 17 trillones de dólares, Estados Unidos no estaría en crisis. Con ese dinero podrían arreglar todo. Ayudar a los granjeros, financiar la salud pública, mejorar las escuelas, bajar los costos de vida, etc. Literalmente sí sería la edad de oro para Estados Unidos. Pero claro, es Trump quien lo dice. Y sabemos lo que eso significa. Es más, aquí tienen lo que él dijo, sus propias palabras. Escuchen.
And we have over $17 trillion, Albert. Do you believe these numbers? So Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have over 17 trillion for essentially 8 months. Pretty amazing.
Amigos, realmente lo repite como si fuera verdad. 17 trillones en 8 meses. La pregunta es obvia, ¿no? ¿Dónde está ese dinero? ¿En qué cuenta? ¿O será que está en la cuenta de sus bolsillos? Ahora bien, al parecer todo esto ha estado calculado, ¿no? Desde que se acercaba esta fecha límite para el cierre de gobierno. Porque, señores, como les mencioné hace un momento, Trump comenzó la purga. Acaba de congelar 18,000 millones de dólares en fondos para la ciudad de Nueva York. Es más, el director de presupuesto de la Casa Blanca, Russell Vought, que es pues el arquitecto del proyecto 2025, dijo que la administración de Trump estaba suspendiendo miles de millones de dólares para fondos en proyectos de infraestructura en la ciudad de Nueva York. Y eso sucedió horas después del cierre del gobierno federal. Aquí está la publicación. Vought escribió en X que pausaría 18,000 millones en fondos para proyectos de infraestructura con la finalidad de garantizar que el dinero no fluyera con base en principios inconstitucionales del DEI. Se han suspendido aproximadamente 18,000 millones de dólares. Veamos esto.
But now to this angle, the Trump administration is putting on hold billions of dollars of funding for infrastructure projects in New York City. In a social media post, White House Budget Director Russell Vought wrote that he would be pausing $18 billion in funding for infrastructure projects to ensure that money was not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles. Specifically, the Hudson Tunnel Project and the 2nd Avenue subway. A person familiar with the situation told NBC News that Transportation Department employees responsible for funding the project have been furloughed due to the shutdown. And the Trump administration, quote, has concerns that the contracts were awarded were inconsistent with civil rights laws and the U.S. Constitution because they were given based on racist DEI. That person continued, saying, quote, thus a review of contracts awarded under the Biden administration is required, adding that the review is also paused because of the Schumer shutdown. Aren't the Republicans in charge? I'm confused. Vote later posted that the Energy Department would cancel another $8 billion in funding related to projects in 16 states, all of which Kamala Harris carried in the 2024 election. 14 of those states have Democratic governors.
Lógico que ya algunos demócratas se han pronunciado. Hemos visto a Hakeem Jeffries, a Robert García, que ya se han pronunciado afirmando que van a comenzar una investigación principalmente por el tema de los 17 trillones de dólares, pero bueno, veremos si es que llega a algún lado, ¿no? La realidad, señores, un shutdown, un cierre de gobierno con millones sufriendo mientras Trump se inventa cifras, se burla del pueblo, comienza a avanzar en sus planes de su agenda 2025. Él fácilmente podría reabrir el gobierno, podría mejorar la educación, podría abaratar la comida, pero prefiere mentir. O peor aún, esconder algo, ¿no? Aquí, amigos, viene la parte más descarada, porque mientras él está presumiendo de los famosos 17 trillones inexistentes, Estados Unidos sigue con un déficit enorme, 2 trillones el último año fiscal, 345.000 millones solo el mes pasado. No hay superávit, no hay dinero mágico, es todo lo contrario. Los trabajadores, los agricultores, las familias siguen en apuros. ¿Qué hacen los republicanos? Se callan. Vimos a James Comer también, presidente del Comité de Supervisión. Hombre, ese tipo debería estar investigando dónde está ese supuesto dinero. Hablamos de un monto que equivale al 65% del PIB de Estados Unidos, pero claro, prefieren seguir protegiendo a Trump, a los multimillonarios. La Casa Blanca, mientras tanto, sigue en lujos. Donald Trump gastándose millones en remodelaciones, un salón de oro gigantesco, 3 veces más grande que la propia Casa Blanca. Yo me pregunto, ¿quién paga eso? ¿Empresas extranjeras? ¿Gobiernos como Qatar? ¿Que acaso se va a llamar Salón Qatari? ¿El nuevo ballroom de Trump? Y encima, ¿no? Comienzan a rondar estas afirmaciones también de los despidos masivos en el gobierno. Como les dije, señores, solamente es la tuerca este cierre de gobierno. Ya comenzó a girar y ya comienza la purga. Escuchen esto.
No sign of Trump. We have not seen Trump today. We have not heard from Trump today. We haven't heard his voice. Our Jeff Zeleny pointing out that on the first day of a government shutdown, as the Trump administration says layoffs are imminent, there is no sign of the President of the United States. And it is no secret to anyone, anywhere in the world, that Trump loves to be seen. Here he is on various days over the past 2 weeks. He loves to seize a moment. But today we have not seen him anywhere as of 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, as the government shutdown enters its 19th hour with no end in sight. And Trump's team is threatening imminent layoffs.
We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown continues.
We believe that layoffs are imminent.
Imminent means this: Trump's budget chief telling Republicans to expect the pink slips in the next day or two. Now, layoffs on top of layoffs. I want to be clear, we're using that word specifically, layoff. That is what the administration is calling them. They're not being furloughed, which is what usually happens during a shutdown, right? You get a furlough, government reopens, you get back pay, and you're back to your job. No, they are saying layoffs, permanent, goodbye. And this comes as the government shutdown means that we're not even going to get crucial economic data released. So the payroll processing company ADP, it's a private company, they came out and released their monthly numbers, jobs numbers. This is all we got. We won't, if the government's closed, get the federal ones this Friday. The ADP number showed more than 30,000 jobs were lost in September. That is the biggest number in more than 2 years. And on top of it, they say jobs were also lost in August. Now that reality is grim, even though over the past few weeks, Trump has said this.
The jobs are being created right now. A lot of jobs are coming in, like I think we've never seen before.
Well, the numbers we are getting show that to be a fantasy. But back to the black hole of economic data we are entering during a government shutdown. We have not had a blackout in jobs data in 12 years. And it is not just jobs that are a concern. Take this headline from the Wall Street Journal the other day. I've been saving it because it really stood out to me. It says, beneath the GDP, a risk warning. In the Journal, they point to the Commerce Department's latest analysis. It was released this week. So when you read through it, what you see is America's gross output, which measures business spending at all stages of production, so every stage of the factory, all the way through, they say you can see the data slowing to a crawl. As the Wall Street Journal puts it, when business puts on the brakes, employment slows and recession strikes.
Y mientras todo sucede, hemos dejado muchas cosas atrás. Hemos visto aún las conexiones que vimos con el caso de Jeffrey Epstein, ¿no? Quedaron los documentos ocultos, los nombres como Elon Musk, Steve Bannon que aparecieron en estos archivos. Todo encubierto, ¿no? Todo protegido por esta administración. ¿Ya van entendiendo cómo la narrativa está cambiando? ¿Cómo se están olvidando? Lo que queda claro, amigos, Donald Trump y sus aliados republicanos no trabajan para la gente. No están en el Congreso buscando soluciones. No se presentan a negociar. Están más preocupados por protegerse ellos al círculo multimillonario y seguir creando un show de mentiras que distraiga al país. La verdad muy simple, amigos, esos 17 trillones, si es que existieran, hoy no estaríamos hablando de esto, pero no existen. Lo único real es el daño que Trump le está causando a Estados Unidos. Ahora bien, amigos, de esto último que hablé quiero que profundicemos un poco y es el tema de los despidos masivos, ¿no? Todo esto que está ocurriendo, señores, en la Casa Blanca es alarmante. Y no estamos hablando de un cierre temporal del gobierno como otros, como el año 2018, ¿no, señores? Hablamos de una estrategia muy calculada por Donald Trump, por todo su equipo y su agenda 2025 para poder utilizar este shutdown, este cierre de gobierno, como un arma política. Ya salen a amenazar con despidos permanentes de trabajadores federales y obviamente están atacando directamente a proyectos en estados demócratas, como vemos el caso de Nueva York. Trump y sus aliados, señores, han dejado claro que piensan aprovecharse de este cierre de gobierno. Lo han hecho desde el día 1. Es más, horas antes de que se produzca este cierre, ya venían coqueteando con la idea, ¿no? De que tal vez era un buen momento para hacer unos cambios. Es la oportunidad que tienen para recortar empleos, para destruir programas sociales, para castigar a los estados que no están bajo su control. Lo más grave, lo están diciendo abiertamente, como si no hubiera nada malo en jugar con el sustento de millones de personas. Pero bueno, veamos esta noticia y volvemos para analizar.
Joining us now, MSNBC congressional reporter Michael Schnell, NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, and Semaphore White House correspondent Shelby Talcott. Michael, any movement today?
Yeah, Katie, not really. Look, I will caveat that with the fact that both the House and Senate are out of session today in observance of Yom Kippur, the Jewish holiday, but still not a lot of action up here. We did hear from Speaker Mike Johnson and his leadership team a little bit earlier this morning, and they had stuck by the same talking points, arguing that the onus of this shutdown is on Democrats, and then the best way to reopen the government is to pass that House-passed continuing resolution that was crafted by Republicans. Listen to a taste of what Speaker Johnson had to say.
People say, why aren't you negotiating with Schumer and Jeffries? Because I quite literally have nothing to negotiate. There's nothing I can pull out of the bill that was a Republican priority to say, oh, we won't do that. Why don't you guys vote for it now? I don't have anything. I didn't put anything in it to send it over. I'm stunned. I'm stunned that they have decided to shut the government down and hurt people. It is on them 100%.
Now, Katie, we know that just agreeing to that Republican-crafted stopgap bill is a non-starter among the majority of Senate Democrats. Now, we are aware that some conversations are underway in a bipartisan fashion in the Senate about potentially finding an off-ramp to the current situation. We saw some of those huddles happening on the Senate floor yesterday. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said it was his understanding that they would continue today. But what that bipartisan off-ramp could be, that agreement to reopen the government, really remains elusive as of now. Now, what does the schedule for the next few days look like? The Senate is going to be back here in the Capitol tomorrow. They'll be holding a pair of votes. First, on that Democratic-crafted stopgap that includes the Obamacare subsidies and other health care provisions. We're expecting that to fall short of the 60-vote threshold needed to move forward. Senate will also vote on that Republican-crafted stopgap again. Similarly, we expect that to fail as well. Then the path forward remains unlikely, though John Thune, saying this morning morning that he doesn't expect the Senate will remain in recess over the weekend, which, Katie, that means the shutdown could likely extend into next week.
Yeah, sounds like it. All right, so who is to blame for the shutdown, according to American voters? Here is a Washington Post text poll. 47% say Trump and the Republicans in Congress. 30% say Democrats in Congress. 23% not sure. This is 1,010 adults reached by text on October 1st. And then the other part of this, which is what this whole shutdown is about, these federal subsidies for health care. Here's what people say about that. 71% of the country wants to extend health care subsidies. 29% wants it ended as scheduled. It would end in January, and in some cases, premiums would triple to unaffordable highs for many, 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 many Americans. Vaughn, where's the White House's head on that? Do these numbers stir them?
Apparently not, because we have not heard any indication that they have any intention of relenting. And I think if the president was worried about it, I don't think that he would have been so explicit as to welcome shutdowns. He's done it in the past. And then I think it's worth going back to just earlier this week. He has been very vocal, arguing that this is effectively, in some ways, an effective approach to cut down government. Take a listen.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way.
And so, well, you could say Capitol Hill, right, for a little analogy. They're figuring out how the restaurant should be run moving forward. In the meanwhile, Russ Vought and Donald Trump are in the kitchen with the active ingredients in deciding what to slice and dice here. And those two men are here meeting this afternoon to go through potential firings across agencies and potential cuts of projects. He's threatened 16 Democratic states, their green energy projects. He's threatened the tunnel that is being constructed here in New York, a subway transformation project. So there's a lot on the line. And frankly, until the government is reopened, the Office of Personnel Management, they sent out to agencies stating very specifically that the OMB director is the one who is empowered to determine which federal workers are accepted and able to work. And right now, they are making the case, the OMB director, that those who would be processing the firings are crucial workers and workers that should continue to work.
And Russ Vought has been dreaming about this since puberty, according to Utah Senator. Strange way to put it, but I guess that underscores how much he wants to slash the government. What's interesting, Shelby, is Donald Trump, listen, it's a risk, obviously, to shut down the government over anything. The Democrats are running that risk. They're hoping that banging on about health care subsidies right now as the exchanges open up for enrollment and as people are getting their notices for what next year's premiums are going to cost is going to make a difference. People are going to understand why they've shut down the government. At the same time, what I find puzzling is that when Donald Trump says, you know, if you do this, I'm going to have to permanently lay off people and it's going to be your fault. It's like he's saying, I'm going to punch a guy in the face. And if you don't stop me, if you don't stop my fist, then it's your fault I punched him. It seems like a gamble as well from the White House.
I think anytime there's a shutdown, there's a gamble. Both sides are taking a gamble. You never know ultimately who the American people are going to blame. But the White House is betting at the end of the day that Democrats are going to take the blame. And when I talk to White House officials, they remain confident in that. And they're not really hiding the ball with the fact that part of the result of this shutdown is that they want to, as a senior White House official described to me, force Democrats to understand the consequences of keeping the government closed. And so part of that, you're seeing these sort of cuts, you're seeing these initiatives that are targeting Democratic states. And they're not hiding the ball that these are programs that don't fit the administration's needs, as an administration official told me. And so they're using this shutdown as sort of an opportunity to continue some of those early on Doge-like cuts, to continue shrinking the U.S. government.
Give me a little bit about more from your conversation with Senator Kramer about Russ Vought.
Right, yeah. Republicans are concerned about this. They're concerned that they're going to move too quickly and sort of lose the advantage that Republicans believe they had. So Senator Kramer told my colleagues that Russ is less politically in tune than the president, and that we as Republicans have never had so much moral high ground on a government funding bill in our lives. I don't see why we would squander it, which I think is the risk of being aggressive with executive power in this moment. And so you're hearing from Republicans who are sort of urging caution from Russ vote on all of this. They want the government to take a little bit of a step back and maybe be less aggressive in their cuts because they're concerned that they're going to lose this, what they believe is a winning argument for the American people.
I mean, it's basically the risk that I was just talking about. Why is the White House getting in the way of just saying this is all the Democrats' fault? Why would the White House want to take it a step further and start permanently cutting jobs and then try to blame it on the other side when they're the ones that are in charge of those cuts? So, Michael, are you hearing similar sentiment on the Hill, or is Senator Kramer an outlier?
I think that by and large, we're seeing most Republicans back up President Trump and Russ Vought on this matter. Russ Vought actually spoke directly to House Republicans yesterday. I spoke to a number of members who were on that call, and they told me after that they are supportive of these reductions in force. A number of members had actually said that on the call themselves, according to people who were listening. We also heard from Speaker Mike Johnson this morning, who during that press conference was actually asked directly, are you concerned? You argue that Republicans have the upper hand in this shutdown and that Democrats will be to blame for the situation. Are you at all concerned that these firings and these mass layoffs will prompt that public opinion to change and for Republicans to actually take on more of the onus of the shutdown by the public? And Speaker Johnson said he's not concerned about that. He's not worried. He also actually said that constitutionally what the president and Russ Vought are doing is legal, saying that because the legislative branch is essentially shut down with Congress, with government not funded, the executive branch has those powers, and Russ Vought, as the director of the Office of Management and Budget, he says has wide discretion over what can be done during a shutdown. So the majority of Republicans we are seeing stand quite behind President Trump in this situation and argue that he's in the right for what he's doing. But I'm curious to see how those polls are going to shake out, because, again, these firings are going to impact what they're saying could be thousands of people.
This is obviously a gamble, who's going to get blamed for it, because the midterms are coming up. I mean, they're not coming up, but we are about a year away, and people are going to start campaigning on it. The last time Donald Trump was in office during the midterms, the Democrats focused almost exclusively on health care, and they won back a majority in the midterm elections. And Donald Trump, was investigated quite a bit. The focus on health care seems to be what they're trying to do now, and they're hoping for the same success.
Right. And actually, for the Republican angle of this, I think, you see the polling numbers. It doesn't make sense why they would so openly celebrate mass firings. At the same time, people like Russ Vought, I don't know if he's been doing it since puberty, had this vision, but at the same time, they've seen Donald Trump as a vessel. This is what their vision of an American government wants.
To make the government
and
smaller.
This, 2025 and 2026, is their moment. Right? Forget what happens next November. This is their window of opportunity. The next year, next 13 months, to go and reshape the American government. I was told back during the transition, Russ Vought, it wasn't clear whether he was going to be onboarded, but Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk were big proponents because they saw him as the portal to being able to actually execute the budgetary means to go and do what they knew that they would not be able to do independently through Doge. They're no longer around. Russ Vought is, and he is the man who is carrying out this vision of the Heritage Foundation, the Center for Renewing America, all of these different right-wing groups. This is their moment.
They campaigned on it. There's no doubt about that.
Correct.
Von Hilliard, always good to have you. Michael Schnell.
Qué escalofriante, ¿no? Escuchar todo esto. Esta administración no está simplemente reaccionando a una crisis presupuestaria. Él está fabricando las crisis necesarias para poder seguir justificando medidas extremas. Amenazar con despidos permanentes de empleados federales en plena lucha política, amigos, eso no es eficiencia, no es ahorro, es un ataque directo. La estabilidad de miles de familias trabajadoras dependen de eso. Y aquí quiero detenerme porque incluso algunos republicanos han advertido. Esta estrategia es un suicidio político. porque la mayoría de los estadounidenses apoyan mantener los subsidios de salud y se oponen más bien a los recortes masivos. Sin embargo, Trump está decidido a avanzar. No le importa el costo humano ni político, siempre y cuando él pueda presentarse como el hombre fuerte que controla esta situación. Algunos defensores del trumpismo dicen que los demócratas también están arriesgando al no ceder, ¿no? Pero aquí yo veo una gran diferencia, señores, por favor. Los demócratas lo están demostrando. Están defendiendo una continuidad de subsidios de salud que el 71% de los estadounidenses están respaldando. Y esto es público. Mientras que Trump amenaza con destruir empleos, proyectos, ¿solo para qué? Para castigar a sus adversarios. Una vendetta por los últimos 4 años. No es lo mismo resistir por derechos básicos que imponer por capricho ideológico. Además, el simple hecho de que se ataque directamente a proyectos en estados demócratas, como el caso de Nueva York, infraestructura, energía verde, transporte, ya nos muestra, ¿no?, que no se trata de eficiencia fiscal. Porque claro, los despidos permanentes o masivos en un gobierno se tratan de eficiencia, al menos casi siempre. Pero esto no. Esto es más una venganza política. Es el uso autoritario del poder, propio de gobiernos que gobiernan para sus aliados y castigan a quienes no lo apoyan. Pero bueno, señores, ahora quiero saber qué piensan ustedes. ¿Creen que Trump va a lograr imponernos esta narrativa y culpar a los demócratas? ¿O será que esta estrategia va a terminar pasándole una factura política? Los leo en los comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme el día de hoy en este video. Recuerden, como siempre, déjame tu like, comparte el contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.